There's other things in here that are... Well, good morning, everyone. I think I'm on. It's very difficult to tell. I certainly hope so. Good morning. It's Stitch Along Friday, and I'm using different software, and I am at a different spot in my little office. So I hope things are going well. I'm looking forward to seeing if there is a viewer, because if this is working, then you should be able to see me now. I'm actually a little bit nervous this morning, not because of this, but because there was something else that happened just before, and I was supposed to do something with it, and I couldn't do it. It's something online. It's something that I need to do on the computer after my Stitch Along Friday. So Petra, good morning. I'm glad you're here. That means that it's succeeded and my software is working. I got it set up and I'm in my different area of the little office. Good to see that you're up and at Adam. I hope that things are going well for you, Petra. It looks like there's about 6 viewers so far, so since we're just started, that's perfectly fine. Good morning to everyone, not just to say good morning, but also to feel like I am with friends. It's really amazing to me that we can have these little streams, just me, just talking, and I know that you're all connecting through this little stream. Hopefully at some point in the future, and this is still my dream, we'll be able to do this kind of stream where everyone can have a little something to say, but for the time being, your typing is something that I just really enjoyed. Looking forward to seeing what everyone is talking about today. And remember, to talk about amongst yourselves is perfectly fine. I don't actually have anyone here to help me in my little place here, which is fine, but just so you know, it's not, if something happens in my world, I have to fix it. So Petra's wonderful putting in all sorts of links when I'm mentioning items, and so thank you very much for that, Petra. That's a real big help. Lisa's here also, and the three of us are actually doing VS 3.0 now, I think. We've got a whole other plan for Victoria Sampler. And really, my semi-retirement a year ago when I went to Mexico was meant really so that I could cut down on some of my work. And I have to tell you that really my work has been just as much as before. I can't believe it. I'm lucky that I've still got my health, that I can do these things, but I know that this is only because we're setting up to be able to have a different kind of Victoria Sampler in the future. And from my point of view, it's all effort very well spent. It also means that you are going to see some different things. And I don't know if you realize, but when I start doing newsletters again, the newsletters take up a fair bit of my time, and that will probably also change in the future. But for now, it's all hands on deck. Thank you, Lisa, for all of the work that you do. I know that you are also working at another job now, and you're no longer in Victoria, which really, really is sad. Now that I'm back in Victoria, it's very sad. However, Petra is in Vancouver, Lisa is in Port Alberni, and each one of you are about 4 hours away. So from my point of view, and I'm kind of in the middle, I guess, although you can go direct from Vancouver to Nanaimo, and that would be fairly close, but still, we are about 4 hours away from each other, and there's roughly a triangle, and it's really quite humorous when we have a meeting on Wednesday mornings. We feel like we're in the same room, more or less. You know, we can't say that it's exactly the same, but it sure is very close. Thank goodness for Zoom. So good morning, Diane Zamudio. Very nice to see you. And yes, it's working, exactly. And Pat Henke is here. Good morning. Lisa, yay, you're here. And Joe, Joe is here. You always say Joe Larry, but really your name is Joe. I understand that. Nancy Pudding is here. Lynn Molitar. Oh, wonderful. Marty, hello. Nice to see you too. Let's see. Tammy Thompson is here. Sunny day in Scenery Hill, Pennsylvania. Petra's chasing her rogue cats around. Don't worry. It's lucky that we even have any links. We didn't ever used to have any links put on our chat group. So thank you so much for doing that, Petra, when you can. Really, people can also look these things up. Jean, thank you so much for mentioning that it's sunny in Atlanta. It's also sunny here in Sydney, very close to Victoria, BC. And we are north of Seattle, for those of you who are not as familiar with the Canadian geography map. We're right on the west coast. And those of you who are far away, if you're in Australia or New Zealand, I don't know where you are. If you tell me what city or town you're from, I wouldn't know. In fact, I don't know very many of the towns in the US. I do know a fair bit of the bigger cities, really, in Europe and the US, but, you know, there are lots of areas of the world that I'm not familiar with. And I know Canada is a big country, but there are as many people, I believe, in Canada as there are in California. So population-wise, we are more sparsely spread apart along the border between the US and Canada, and that's where it's the easiest to live because the temperatures are not quite so low in the winter or so hot in the summer. However, we are not the US. We definitely have our own country, and we have our own customs and ways of behaving. Apparently, it's very polite what we are, which I don't know if that's always the case. Anyway, thank you very much, Lisa, for saying you like the new setup for streaming. Much appreciated. I am feeling so much more at home, and hopefully at some point you or Petra or both will come down here and we'll be able to accommodate 3 people or 2 anyway at one time. It's really nice to be in my environment again. I really love it. It's better than being in Mexico with the palm trees swaying in the background and the occasional gardener going by and the cats outside. It's been really quite a trip doing all of the things that I've been doing. It's an adventure for sure, and I wasn't expecting to do that when I was in my 70s, but hey, if you don't do it when you are able, then you may not ever get the chance to do it again. So I was really glad to have had that experience, and it gives me the greatest appreciation for where I am now, I must say. I love Mexico, but not for a long time, and of course it's not home for me. I don't speak the language, and honestly, the language makes a huge difference as to whether you feel at home. And I know that I could have learned a bit more, but I wasn't planning on making Mexico my final home, so I didn't do that. I expect that if and when I go back, because I will go back, because Richard's still there, I will learn a few more words, hopefully. And in the meantime, I can say hola and a number of other things, but I'm not going to make myself feel embarrassed on screen today. Carla, you're here. You're always here, and don't worry about being anything. Early, late, it really makes no difference. We're just glad that you show up and that you participate. Thank you so much. So, Rain, and the June cottage is up. I just put it up a few minutes ago, so those of you who want to have a quick peek, it's up already. It's purple from my point of view at this point, but you can make it any color you want. I just wanted to get a different kind of color. If people are doing it all in one piece of linen, I didn't want you to have the exact same color that you had in the previous few that would be adjacent. But even if they are, it really makes no difference. It's what you would like them to be. Some people may do them all the same color, just different shapes. That's another really great idea. The fact that I've been seeing people saying, phew, I just made the May cottage before today shows me that people are looking forward to the June cottage. So hopefully you like the new shape. It's a cute little cottage and not so farm-like as the last one that we did. Thank you so much. And thank you, Petra, for a nice compliment. Renee Cleveland is here. Lovely. I do want to say that I have been trying to set up my TV. I've got a TV up there, and then I can see your comments from far away. But for now, I'm still looking down, and I hope that it will change sometime in the future. Okay, so I didn't bring my angel cards, and last week I forgot to even say the angel card. So I'm going to go over there and get my angel cards where I used to stream, okay? I'll be right back. Here they are. I've got them. We can't be having anything to do with no angel cards. There we go. They're all in their own little glass case here. So I wanted them upright because I have so little space. So instead of having them all in a bowl or, spread all over the place. So that's what I've done. I've also got a few models up, which is really cool. And I mean, not up, behind me for sure. I've got some models. Let me see if I can see it on the screen here. Yep, I can see it. Although I can't see it in Facebook, I can see it in my streaming software, so that's good. And it's all looking kind of familiar, don't you think? I mean, doesn't this look a little bit like it used to look in my old home, in my studio? I think overall, I'm pretty happy with the result. And I did spend a little bit extra time setting up and making it look pretty. It's kind of hard to keep that back, this thing, from either being like this or like this, because the camera can easily make it look like it's on an angle. So let me know if it slips, if the camera slips. It's kind of fun. So I'm going to check your things. Hello, Liz, you're here. That's wonderful. Good. Hello, everybody, she says. Does that mean we get 2 this week? Oh, now that's a good idea, getting 2. Let's have 1 now and 1 at the end. Although you meant to actually, focus on the 1 card. So I'm not sure what the angels are going to say if I do another one at the end here. Okay. All right. Allow your life to be filled with wonder. I don't think it's been too long since we've had this one. And really, you can't have this often enough, right? It is wonderful, this life. It can be really, really complicated and difficult for some people, and I understand that. Nevertheless, if we just put on some gratitude, we find that we can find something that's wonderful. In other words, full of wonder. And even like outside here, there's a rhododendron that is in full bloom. It's like red, and there's hardly any green showing. There's so many flowers on it. I don't know who's feeding it or making it look like that, but boy, they've done a wonderful job. And from my point of view, that's amazing. It's wonder. Oh, that's great. So I have some little models, and the reason that I'm saying I have some, Petra put up a sale, I believe, and I think it's up now, right, Petra? I think so. I did check on it this morning, so I'm pretty sure I'm right. The problem is I didn't actually look at the list of the things that were on sale. So I'm actually giving you a list of some of the projects that I used to show you what the French knot looks like. So I have pictures of all these models, and I thought I'd show you those models in larger so that you can see the entire thing instead of just the parts where I was showing you the French knots. And I also have models for the two Stitch Along Fridays. Sorry, not Stitch Along, the Stitch Alongs, sorry. The two Stitch Alongs, one by Karen and one by Rachel. They're here, so I'm going to show those to you in a few minutes. But I thought what I'd first do is show you a couple of the models that have the French knots as feature in my newsletter today. Thank you, Diane. That's very nice of you. And thanks, Pat. That is the sale. There's the link. Wanda, good morning. I know you mentioned that you live not far from here, and you're absolutely right. You don't. And I hope your new job is just as much fun as you thought it might be when you and I talked the last time. I think we were talking in person before I went to Mexico. So I'm just waving and acknowledging you. So one of the things about the French knot is it's very tiny. So I'm going to try now to see if I can get you to see the French knots at the top of this alphabet sampler. As you can see, whoa, there we go. So as you can see, the French knots are kind of light. They're white and light blue. And if you can spot them, you can see they're tiny, tiny, cute little flowers. And that was one of the featured models for the French knot stitch, the stitch of the week, this week in my newsletter. Hello, Karen Lark. Good to see you. And so it's called F is for Fairy, and I wonder if I can just put a little bit of light on the subject so that you can see better. And I'm not sure whether that helps or, oh, it does. I look a little darker, and that's good because I want you to see this whole thing. Now let's see if I can show it to you this way. I'm leaning back a little bit so that you can see more easily. So really, no, this isn't going to work very well. Let's see. Well, anyway, so there is the F is for Fairy, and there's little blossoms at the top. And up close, you'll see there's a feather and a frog and some flies. I mean, everything that I could think of that would fit, and that actually is for F is for Fairy. In other words, for the letter F. I think I'm going to turn this off because it's actually a little too much for my head. I don't think I can't take it. Anyway, so that's F is for Fairy alphabet sampler. And the alphabet samplers, as you know, you can buy all of them at one time on our website for 24% off, which is great for the set. Or you can, I think you can still buy like a certain amount and have some discount, but the major discount is when you buy them all. But have a look on our website. You'll see on the front page, if you scroll down on our front page, there's all the different promotions there that Petra put on. Thank you. Marcia Buckingham, good morning from Dallas. Lisbeth, you just finished your My 5 piece this week. Good for you. That's awesome. And Karen Lark, hello. Karen, I'm going to mention your Stitch Along. I honestly think that still people can join in. They may not get the discount on the pattern, but they can still join into your Stitch Along. So as far as I know, that's going to be in a few minutes, so you'll be able to see what I say about your beautiful Stitch Along. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the Sunflower Street. Sunflower Street is a pattern that goes along with, here I'll show you two of them, and the other one I think is a poinsettia. These two go together. They look like they're in different, well, they are in different frames, but they're the exact same size. And when you see Sunflower Street up close, you can see that it is filled with silk ribbon. And the reason that I'm showing you all the silk ribbon is because silk ribbon actually is very forgiving. If I go very close, can you see all the little, yeah, these are all Japanese silk ribbon stitches, and they're just layered on top of one another. The biggest issue with working with silk ribbon actually has to do with when you come up and when you go down. Do not go through the silk ribbon on the back, because there's a lot on the back. You have to make sure that your tapestry needle goes between the silk ribbon, because as soon as you start going through with your silk ribbon on your needle, you go through another silk ribbon that happens to be on the back, you really start pulling everything out of shape. So remember that when you're working with silk ribbon, don't use a sharp needle, because what you're dragging behind you is quite big. So even a chenille needle is probably going to be more difficult for you in this case. Use a tapestry needle to make sure you know where your stitch is going to come down, so that you don't go through or pierce any of the ribbon that happens to be lying on the back, okay? So other than that, look at, there's the silk ribbon as well, just down here. And then there's these bullion knots. Bullion knots will come as stitch of the week at some future time. I hope that you know that there are tricks to both French knots and bullion knots. My French knot video that you'll see in the newsletter will show you how I hold it, and there's two things that I do always with French knots. I make sure that my piece is lying on my, not lying on my lap, but lying on a pillow if I have to, so that it's close enough so that I can see, but I need to work with two hands with French knots. Now, I don't always have to. I've been able to manage to stitch in hand and do a French knot or two, but if you're doing a whole bunch, just put your work in a frame that you can hold, so you don't have to hold it with your hands. Really, you can lay it on the edge of a table so that you've got the ability to work with both hands, okay? And the other thing with any kind of knot is to make sure that you hold the working thread fairly taut. And then when you're winding it, you wind the needle, not the thread. I wind the needle, and I find that means that I'm still holding the working thread in my other hand. Make sense? Okay, so another series, yes. Thank you very much, very much, very much. Lisa put down all of them: Hydrangea House, Tulip Terrace, Sunflower Street, and Poinsettia Place. And all of them, actually here, I've also got Hydrangea House here, which is, oh, it is full of French knots. Let me see if I can zoom in so that we get this in much more focus. I want to be sure that you can see the French knots. So I'm going to fill the screen and see if that helps. Come on now, there we go. Look at that. Look at those French knots right in this band. These are all French knots, and they look like hydrangeas, don't they? There's various different colors in there. There's 3 different colors like there is at the top. These are all cross stitch, and these are all French knots. So you can substitute colonial knots for French knots if you find them a little easier to do. I find that both of them are wonderful. Colonial knots are actually quite simple too. But that's another stitch for another week. So I'm just focusing on French knots, and I know I used French knots here. And Hydrangea House is just adorable. And look at this band down here with the multicolored silks that go here as well and here. Those multicolored silks just make me smile. And then I took out the blues out of the multicolored silks and used those same blues in the little scene down here. This little scene, you can do this on your own. You know, you don't have to do all the rest of this. If you just do this, it's gorgeous just by itself, if I do say so myself. Thank you. Let's see what else. Hi, Dorothy Wendell. You're late to the party. You've never stitched with silk ribbon? Are you kidding? Oh, it's definitely time. Make sure it's silk ribbon, okay? Don't use any rayon silk ribbon or any other material silk ribbon. I have found that when you're working with the other kinds of ribbons that people might tell you are similar to silk ribbon, They're not. They don't stitch the same way. They don't behave at all. All you ever do with rayon silk ribbon, or whatever they call the man-made material ribbon, the stitch itself becomes really thick, and you don't want to do that. Thank you, Karen. It's actually all four of those patterns are meant for a class. Like I did a Sunflower Street class at one point, and the reason that I chose that, won't go with the Sunflower Street. Sorry, here we go. The reason I chose this as a class is because I have some specialty stitches that are not difficult. Then I have one drawn thread and no hardanger. And I have another stitch here and some various little stitches in here, and some over one cross stitch, which some people find difficult, but is a very, very good thing to learn. And then there's silk ribbon. So the reason that I put all that in there is so that people would have that experience. And it wasn't that, I needed to have those specialty threads in there, but if you have the threads themselves, you'll understand why I chose them. They are just beautiful to work with. So in the future, we will hopefully be able to find a good source. At the moment, unfortunately, the Kreinik Mori is a little hard to find. And one of the reasons is because the Kreinik company has been sold from the original owner, Doug Kreinik, sold it, and it has now been taken over by a company called Rainbow Gallery. And they have their system has to yet be set up. They are going to have a factory, and they're going to have to make the skein, so it's a huge deal. And I believe the whole thing is moving from West Virginia to California, if I'm not mistaken, about the States. But that whole thing, the Kreinik, all the Kreinik threads, people have pre-bought. The stores have pre-bought, so you should be able to find most of these threads until they get back up and running again in a few months. So it's going to be extremely fun. Dorothy says, I have lots of silk ribbon here from your grab bags. I assume it's silk. Yes, we wouldn't have any other. That's true. If you can find some yellow, would be nice. But hey, you can make those flowers, not sunflowers, some other kind of flower. So whatever kind of silk ribbon you have would be wonderful. Diane says, doing parts is an excellent idea. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I saw, Diane, that you may not be able to stitch all the parts of the Birds of a Feather in the other stitch along group, in the Birds of a Feather stitch along group from Karen, because you said I can't stitch on linen anymore, or haven't learned, or whatever. I think it's your eyes. So the cool thing is, you don't have to stitch the things you don't want to stitch. You just don't. And your frame and your whole piece will be somewhat smaller, or even larger if you want to. So keep in mind that you are the author of your own piece. There's no stitch police out there, and there's no design police, certainly not from my point of view. So stitch the parts that you like that go together with the other parts you like. Use a little bit of graph paper or a stitching program to maybe fill in something that you think, hey, I'd like this in there, and you kind of do it yourself. There's lots of people who do that. So have some fun creating your sampler, and then it's one of a kind, right? Then no one's got one like you, which in many, many cases, people are surprised to find that they are very good at choosing. It's like in the old days, people would say, well, do it yourself. And that's from the do-it-yourself people from, I don't know, hardware stores or whatever. Do-it-yourself is a great idea. And it doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself. I mean, take what I've got here and use it to your advantage, to the way you would like to see something. And to me, taking elements from some of my designs is a really good idea if you like the elements, because they go together. Many of them will go together, and they're interchangeable with regard to size, etc. There's Karen Stitch Along Group. Thank you, Petra. I'm going on. Thank you. Yes, I did mention it. Tammy says, Kreinik Manufacturing Company is from my hometown. I knew it was West Virginia. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's really good to know. Thanks, Tammy. Let's see what else. Yeah, move to the east and the west. Good. Okay, so I am batting 1,000. All right. So the New Zealanders and Friends. So it's a little bit longer title, but that's because it was started by Karen Lark, who is a resident of New Zealand, and she was just hoping there would be some New Zealanders who would like to stitch along with her. Well, as it turns out, I think you've got over 30 people now, don't you, Karen? I'm not even sure how many you ended up having. So Karen's Stitch Along group is wonderful. It's already started. So she's already handed out the coupons, but I believe in Karen's group there are still some coupons available, or at least some uses of the coupons available. So if you join, you may still be lucky enough to get the discount of 25% on the pattern, if that's what you want to do. So this is the pattern. I think we've all seen this coming through the pipeline, and I'm going to see if I can just see. The problem with making sure that the camera responds to this pattern is I want to be sure that it actually goes in focus. There we go. So I have to sit there for just a little bit. There we go. So that's Birds of a Feather. And when you get started, you can start with cross stitch at the top with some back stitching, and then a little tiny little herringbone, some over one, and then the fan stitch in the Lazy Daisy, and some triple cross, and then a little bit more cross stitching, and another fan stitch, and some zigzag, and some cross stitch. So there's really not anything too demanding in the specialty stitch part of this. And honestly, the theme of this, the way that we talk about stitching together, this was such a perfect choice for you, Karen, and for all of you who are really not ready to start with hardanger. You're just not ready to do anything more than this. And this is already a huge stretch forward from just doing cross stitch. So, but again, says Diane, I don't want to do them all. Then don't. Just don't do all of the parts of it, because you can easily get away with leaving a few parts out or substituting something else in its place. And this is the biscornu that goes with it. So that's very pretty, and it will be something that you will be encouraged to do, but it is not part of the stitch along, I think. And Karen has to answer that, but I think that's exactly what she was saying too. She says, oh, I think I'd just like to start on the sampler. There we go. Let me just see. Oh, Judy, so nice to see your work again. Hello from Scotland. My sister and I are touring. Hello, Judy and sister. Good to see you both. I'm glad that you dropped in. Yes, I've set up a little corner of my new little home, and I say little because I think it's about 800 or 900 square feet. So from 3,600 square feet to this amount, it's quite a stretch. So I'm glad to have found a little corner where I could set up. Finally. And Karen says there are 51 people. Thank you, Karen. Honestly, that's a lot. And so I'm really, really proud of Karen for just jumping in. Like she said, I didn't know much about Facebook, and I just want to stitch with my friends. Don't feel like it's anything more than just joining. So go to the link at the top there where Petra put a link to that new group. It's not in this group. It's in her group, in Karen's group. And it's called New Zealanders and Friends, Victoria Sampler something, and they're stitching Birds of a Feather pattern. Just click on that link and then hit join, and then Karen can see whether or not she'll let you in. Okay, and let's see what else. Yes, Dorothy, you missed one angel card. I'm sorry, but the reason that I'm saying one angel card is because I totally forgot last week's angel card. So you're getting another one. According to the group, I think everybody wants two. So the one that we missed was called Allow Your Life to Be Filled with Wonder. I just put it at the back, so that's how I know. And Rachel's Stitch Along group. Now, I'm not sure if this is how you say your name, Rachel, or is it Rachel just the same and it's just spelled slightly differently? But I remember her name quite well now because of the spelling. It's quite different than what I've seen Rachel's name before. In any case, it's called the Gingerbread Trietui, and it's right here. I got it right next to me. And as you may or may not know, this was one of the first gingerbread, it's not a building, but four-dimensional, it feels like four-dimension. There are four sides, and it's a three-dimensional object, okay? And it's called an étui because when you open it up, you can open up the top here. I just need to be able to see what I'm doing so that I'm not showing you something that you go, what was that again? So here is a scene from one side. There is a scene from another side. This is the third scene, and this is the fourth scene. And these scenes were done, I think, somewhere in the early 2000s, I'm pretty sure. In any case, the trees are the same. This little bit here, the Bargello, is the same all the way around. And then there's the bottom part, which I now wish I hadn't done, but it actually does look it looks fine, but it's very difficult to get the finishing correct. So remember that when you're, when you're doing that. And then there's a vine at the bottom of each side. And these vines have little roses all in various different stitches. So those were the ones that I taught. And we have just had the most wonderful time. I'll show you what it looks like when it's open. Lisa did such an amazing job finishing this. As you can see, there's even a biscornu, and there's a scissor case that's kind of stitched onto this piece. And the biscornu in the middle here comes out. Well, it's not a biscornu. It's just like one of those typical pincushions that were made in China, and we would get them here as imports. And I just used to love this shape. And because they were made of this beautiful red silky fabric, well, this is the same pattern or a similar pattern. And in the back here, you'll see these rings that you can, I don't know if you can actually put things on there, but it was a really good decoration. And so that's the project that they're going to be working on. So the thing that they are going to be doing the most of is creating the trees on all four sides. And I think that's going to take a fairly long time for them to do. So this is not going to be as quick as the Birds of a Feather. The Birds of a Feather one will take a much shorter time and will also be very satisfying. But the gingerbread tree étui is one of those pieces that people want in order to be able to complete their gingerbread village. And a lot of people wanted to do the village, but they can't seem to get off the ground. And I believe that with this one, if you're in that group, with this one, I recommend that you do all four on one piece of fabric so that you can cut them out later. Now, that's my recommendation, mind you. And then if you want, and you want to finish it like this, don't forget there has to be a bottom as well. So you'll have to do another piece at the bottom. So when you're cutting things out, you can do them individually. But I remember, was it Lisa? No, I think it was Yvonne who did them all. You can do them all in a row on your scroll bar, so that when you're finished one part, incredibly, the tree takes the longest. So once you've finished one tree, then you can do the fun part. If you do all the trees, though, you can do all the fun parts together. So it's up to you how you stitch these. Individually, it might be take a little bit more time, that's all. And once you've got your linen on, you might as well have your linen on for all of them. And then do the beads at the end, because, yeah, that's what we do. Okay, so thank you, Petra, for reminding me, because I wanted to show. Karen says, I can't wait to start this weekend as it's a holiday weekend. Happy holiday. I hope it's a happy holiday anyway, Karen. Petra said we did one, but there's another one coming. Thank you. And Diane's going to experiment whatever she can accomplish on her Ada. Thanks for the encouragement. Good for you. Honestly, people who stitch on Ada, why not have some fun? I mean, Ada can, it's a wonderful material. It's got the holes. You can pierce the fabric. If you use a sharp needle, it's easier to pierce the insides of the squares, just so you know. So you can do some, absolutely. I remember using Ada, and I did partial stitches in the Ada, you know, the little quarter stitches. When I did that, I would use a sharp needle, a sharp embroidery needle, and like a chenille or something. And from my point of view, that was the way, that was the ticket, just to do those where you go into the fabric. So treat Ada like any other fabric. Just make sure that the holes, there's a hole in the middle of the four holes, and that hole in the middle is literally where you need to go sometimes with these specialty stitches. Okay. Karen says, oh, there we go. There's Karen's group again. And Diane will have some questions, she says. Oh, Wanda, I agree. The Christmas Village Stitch Along, I think, is going to be fabulous, but it may last a few years because there's quite a few things in the Christmas Village. And I wanted to show you one that I also had ready, which is a harbinger of our of our June theme. The June theme is flowers, and this little tiny building is a flower shop. And I had this out because I wanted to take pictures of French knots earlier. So as you can see, the little flower shop has all these incredible flowers all over it. And it has a very cute roof, very simple, which I love this flower shop. And I did it as a class because I wanted to teach some of the stitches that were on here. And some of them, this one was, I think, the French knots. And then this one was colonial knots. I wanted to teach them. So this was a really good way of doing it. And they're on both sides the same. So one side shows you the things at the front door, and this is the back door where they're putting things together and they're potting, and you can see them in behind there. They're putting things together in the back. And this is the part, of course, where there is a lot of dirt lying around and they're putting flowers together and making things look beautiful. So I had in my imagination a front and a back of the store. The flower shop, a wonderful place for people in June to think of, even though this is on gingerbread fabric, right? What if you did this on a dark gray fabric? It would have to be dark so you could see the white. But it doesn't have to be a gingerbread color, and this could be a brick color also, or stucco color. But you can do this in a dark gray, or for that matter, in, I think, a dark blue dark green would be really cool, but you wouldn't see too much of the greenery then. So no, I don't think I'd do green. I think the dark gray or a grayish blue would work very well. I'm not too sure about the white, because as soon as you do the white, as soon as you make the building white, you're going to have all the other white kind of not be seen that much. And you may want to take off the white here because that makes this look Christmassy. So you might need to do a little bit of adjustment because you don't want to think about it having snow, etc. But it would be a really nice summer project if you just went out of your comfort zone with gingerbread and thought of it as an actual shop and use a different color for the stucco on the outside. Thank you. Yes, I really like that too. You can see into the windows, exactly. Love all the Billy. Thank you. There's so many different ways that we can look at these gingerbread buildings. And when I got them all together and I laid them out and made that picture, the picture actually that Rachel has somehow managed to get, she managed to get that picture. And when she downloaded it probably to her computer, she's using it again in her Stitch Along group, because it's a separate group again. So there's Rachel's group, which is for the Gingerbread Village, and then there's Karen's group for the Friends in Stitches. We got that right? Birds of a feather. Okay. I have a hard time with these things first thing in the morning. Sorry. That's really cute. Anyway, so I also had one more that I wanted to show a lot of French knots. And the reason that I went into the French knot thing was because I was taking pictures for my newsletter where there were a lot of French knots needed for the Stitch of the Week. Now look at all of them here. There's the little pink blossoms. There's also blue blossoms here. I often use French knots for blossoms. In this one, it looks like a peach tree. And on this side here, this is not a peach tree. These are some other kind of flower that looks really nice and is great for the bees. And then there is some more French knots right there. Now I know you're not, and these, I love these. This was one of my favorite little plants, the little bleeding heart plants, and they are out right now here, so I just love those. So remember, this is called Babe's Honey Farm. And Babe's Honey Farm was a piece that I did because I was doing farms. there was a wonderful woman here on the island. We're on Vancouver Island. That her name was Babe. Everyone called her Babe. That wasn't her real name, but that everybody called her that. And she had a honey farm from about 1950s, and then she eventually just sold it, which was to us, of course, a shame. But she was older then, and she wanted to retire. But I've never forgotten Babe's honey farm, and we still can get Babe's honey farm honey, but it's not made by her, so I'm not buying that now. I think it was a conglomerate that ended up buying it. So we all, people who knew Babe and would go and buy honey from her feel a little bit awkward about going to buy honey from a conglomerate instead. Oh, that's so good. I'm glad you like it. Thank you. And thanks for the link again, Petra. Very, very sweet of you. And also, let's see, I had one more thing I wanted to show you. Oh, yes. Actually, two more things. So bear with me. It's already 11 minutes after 10, and I haven't stopped talking for 40 minutes. I can't believe it. I must be having a good time. And you guys are awesome. Okay, the reason that I want to show you these two is because these are a set, and I'm only going to show you two so that you don't get too confused. These ones also had wonderful French knots in them. And believe it or not, they are both, I believe, on sale. So keep that in mind. Lisa and I finished these together. She did all the major hard work in finishing them, but I did the bows, which had gotten a little flattened because we had them in storage. But for instance, this one, let's see, there we go. For instance, this one is the little Victorian cottage, and it has some, come on now, focus, focus, focus. I know you can do it. It has a lot of French knots right here. It's not doing it, is it? No. There, okay. And then it has all these wonderful little lazy daisy leaves over there. So these bows really have to be freshened up a little bit, I think. But the Victorian cottage was one of my favorites. And then this one is the French country cottage, which is the one I started with. And it also has a tree of beautiful cherry blossoms. So I wanted to show you those because they are going to be on sale, or some of them will be on sale. You'll see in the sale on Victoria Sampler. And by the way, Petra, wonderful that she is, has created a new way of showing our sale items. So you don't have to know them, you can look at them. In our catalog, you'll see that there are that there are pictures that have a little red sign on them that says 20% off or 15% off. So you can recognize what's on sale, and you don't have to use a coupon for all the things that we do. Still use coupons. Remember, when you use a coupon, you are not going to send it to us in a memo or in an email. You need to put it in the coupon code box before you sign off, okay? Before you put your credit card in, make sure that you put the coupon code in the coupon code area. It's very important. Then you'll get it. And finally, I believe this one is even on sale. And this was one of my latest. It's quite new. This is the drum pin cushion, the original drum pin cushion. And it has some wonderful scenes also. The entire thing makes a beautiful framed piece. And there's the edges right there. And they're put together for us by Lisa, who did an amazing job on this one. And all these trees are just glorious at this time of year. So Petra thought that this would really fit in with our new theme for June, which is flowers. And I think you have a theme, you have a way of talking about blossoms, correct, Petra? Tell me what your actual theme is, but I know it's flowers, and I just wanted to mention that this one is really pretty, and it's really pretty when it's out and you can see it and it's in a frame. So have a look at our website for that one. It matches the one that's coming out later this year. It's sort of the same kind of finish, but except for the top is slightly different. This one is coming out later this year because it's for Halloween. And that is the end of our discussion on all these wonderful patterns. the fact that I've got the models to show you, I'm so excited. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm so thrilled that you're here watching the models coming out and seeing them close up and being able to enjoy looking at them with me. Because from my point of view, these are all my babies, and the ones that I'm showing you that are mine in any case, and to get your eyes on them, I haven't been able to do for at least a year. So it's almost like Lisa's here beside me. I'm thinking of her as I do this because, of course, Lisa and I used to show them all together, and she was always loving that too. The actual theme is around self-care, and it's called Give Yourself Room to Bloom. What a great motto. I'm going to give myself some room to bloom today. Yeah, self-care is something that we tend to forget. I have been feeling a little pressured today, so thanks for reminding me, Petra. We kind of need that, don't we? And thank you, Dorothy. How sweet of you. It really is nice to see everything up close. Marty, how many others have finished the Halloween drum roll from Citrus Hideaway besides me? I don't think I've seen anyone else, and please do not post yours again because people go crazy and they want it, but we're not quite ready to to release it yet. So everybody just was really thrilled to see yours, and the fact that you finished yours is huge. Congratulations on that, Marty. I'm thrilled that you managed to make it happen. I haven't heard of anyone else, but they may have. I mean, I don't hear from everyone that was at these Citrus Hideaway retreats. And a lot of people get started and they may have finished the actual piece, but they may have framed it and then they might be shy to show me. So we'll see what happens after it comes out as a real pattern. Yes. Okay, so I think that's it. Yes, that's all I wanted to show you. But I have one more angel card for Dorothy because this is the real one from today. And it is, oh, I'm not supposed to look. Okay. Oh, okay, I need this too. Room to bloom and treat yourself with gentleness. In other words, don't beat yourself up for anything. Just because you can't do something or because you're feeling a bit tired, don't beat yourself up. Treat yourself with gentleness. Be gentle on yourself. We're all just human beings. And this one's going in the back. Treat yourself with gentleness, okay? End of this wonderful morning, 10:18. I can't believe it. And you know why I can tell that I'm now feeling more at home and able to talk to you? I've got my models. The models are around my back. I feel like I'm back home again with all of you, and hopefully very soon I'm going to have the ability to have Lisa on with me through the magic of apps. We might be able to manage it. So in the meantime, thanks very much for everything that you've done for me today. And we'll see you again next Friday. Have a wonderful holiday, a long weekend this weekend, New Zealanders. And thanks so much. Both New Zealanders are the ones that have done the stitch along. If anyone else wants to start a stitch along, you'll get the exact same treatment and support from us. So please remember that you can start a stitch along whenever you want. It doesn't hurt to start one, and you can have one with 5 or 10. You don't have to have 50, or in Rich Hill's case, it's 100. Over 100 people are in her Gingerbread Village group. So phenomenal. And by the way, these two women, neither one of them had ever done this before. So honestly, all they did was create the Facebook group and interacted with us so that we could make sure that all of the people got the pattern at a 25% discount. So you don't have to be, know things. People aren't expecting you to teach them. They're expecting a room full of people who are enjoying stitching on the same project together. And that's the stitch alongs so far that we've seen. So have a very merry weekend, and I'll see you again next Friday. And I'm going to end the live video now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. And again,